Hey Hard fans, what's going on? I'm so glad you guys are here. Thanks for tuning in. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button. That would really be awesome. All right, talking about Speed Racer right now. Speed Racer was a show that came on in the 1960s, back when I was actually born. I was a kid. I watched it in the 70s when I was old enough to know what I was watching. It was one of the very first anime shows ever seen by American audiences. Another one that came on before that was called Astro Boy. Astro Boy was a show about this little robot kid who had been invented by a human being. I believe the story was the human being, the man, could not have his own child, so he invented a robot son, and Astro Boy could fly and all these amazing powers, and it was in black and white. And after that came Speed Racer, and then came another show at the time called Kimba the White Lion, which I used to watch all the time, which was really, really cool. It was really a precursor to the Lion King, because Kimba was like the prince of the jungle. Anyway, very cool show. They had a talking antelope, a talking parrot. You really can't go wrong with a talking antelope and a talking parrot. Just saying. Anyway, I watched those three anime shows growing up, and Speed Racer really became my favorite very, very quickly. After that, there was a show called Battle of the Planets, which was actually called Gatchaman in Japan, but when it was transferred over here, we called it Battle of the Planets, and they even added some animation to Battle of the Planets, so I guess American audiences would understand the story better, but they actually added this little robot called 7 Sark 7, who would communicate with the anime characters on a television monitor thing, and then we'd cut to the actual anime cartoon, which was way cooler looking, and then cut back to the little robot that was animated for American audiences, and it was weird. Loved that show anyway, because I loved their bird outfits, the bird costumes, the bird helmets with the glass. I mean, just the designs of the anime characters are so, so cool. But anyway, going back to Speed Racer, which I loved way before Gatchaman. Speed Racer was my all-time favorite. It involved a guy named Speed Racer, and he was guess what he did for a living? Go ahead and guess. Nope, he didn't erase things. He wasn't Speed Eraser. No. He was Speed Racer. He actually raced cars for a living. And why am I holding this? I don't even know. But he had a brother named Spritle. Only kid I've ever heard of in my life named Spritle. And Spritle had a pet chimp named Chim Chim. And then Speed had a girl named Trixie. His girlfriend's name was Trixie, which is where I got the name for Trixie Tang in Fairly Odd Parents. I remember loving that name, so when I came up with a girl for Timmy, I thought it'd be kind of cool to have the name Trixie, so that's where that name came from. And he had his Mom Racer, and his dad, Pops Racer. And he also had a brother, or was it his brother? We don't know. This mysterious race car driver named Racer X. And Racer X was rumored to be Speed's long-lost brother Rex Racer. Speed could never beat Racer X. Racer X he would always come out of nowhere and win races, and Speed didn't know who he was. But anyway, Speed Racer is a very cool show, and I've always wanted to do my own version of Speed Racer. And you're probably saying, Butch! Hey Butch! Hey Butch! Hey! You're probably saying, hey, how would you reboot Speed Racer? Well, we have two options. Wait, that's four. We have two options. We can go super comedic, or we can go super serious. If you look at the original Speed Racer, it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek, kind of fun, yet kind of high-stakes adventure series, which really, in its own way at the time, was pretty perfect. I mean, think about it. You have these really cool car races going on, and since it was animated, they can be kind of crazier than normal. You had cars driving up the sides of cliffs, you had cars jumping over trees, you had cars with superpowers. Speed Racer's car had superpowers. The Mach 5 could jump over things. It had these jacks for jacking up the car that would come out of the bottom of the car, and Speed could jump over ravines, other cars, things like that. It had a little thing called a homing robot, which back in the days before cell phones, the homing robot was like a little pigeon robot that would fly out of the car, and it could send messages to people. The car could go underwater. It had like a little bubble that would come over the top of it with oxygen. It had grip tires that could ride on the side of mountains and stuff. It had these buzz saws that came out that could chop down trees. I mean, come on, chop down trees? Even the Tesla doesn't have that. I heard the Tesla's pretty cool. I don't have one. But I think if you're gonna reboot Speed Racer, two options, like I said before. One, the comedic option. You do a full-on version of Speed Racer, but you make it like Teen Titans Go. Nothing's taken seriously. Everything's funny. Yes, there's a couple moments in here where there's danger and some fighting and all that, but you make it super duper funny and really make it self-aware. We're aware that we're a cartoon. We're aware that we're anime. We're aware that we got a weird car that can do things. I've got a chimp. I've got a little boy, my little brother. My first name is Speed. I mean, there's all kinds of jokes you can make. Now, the comedy person in me would like to do a version of Speed Racer Go, like Teen Titans Go. You could probably do that because the title of the theme song is Go Speed Racer. Go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go. So you could actually do Speed Racer Go. I don't know why they're not doing it. They probably should. But that'd be a great version. I think it'd be a lot of fun to do that version. But the action cartoon lover in me, the anime lover in me, wants to do the more updated anime version of Speed Racer. But if I'm going to do Speed Racer, the more serious anime version, I want it to have its own unique look. Like, I love the way anime looks, but I kind of want to make this a little more anime inspired, mixed with a little bit of, I guess, because if I were to design it, it would look a little bit more like a Danny Phantom-ish sort of thing. I'm not saying exactly like Danny Phantom, but it would have an anime vibe, but a little more, maybe thick lines around the characters, maybe a more graphic, simplified look. Things aren't so detailed, but they can be if we need them to be. Almost like One Punch Man. Sometimes he looks super detailed, super muscular. At other times, he's very cartoony, Charlie Brown looking. Maybe there's a way to do that. But I do think if we're going to do that, we're going to need Speed Racer to be a very high stakes show. Now, let's say I were to do a 12 half-hour show with Speed Racer. I would probably, this is just coming off the top of my head, I'd probably do it where, because when you watch Speed Racer as its original version, in its original form, it was a race every episode. A different type of race, different type of car, different type of enemy, which is cool. But I think what I would want to do is I would make it just like the deadliest race ever. I'd do a 12-issue arc, or 12-episode arc where, issue, comic book, 12-episode arc where it was one long race. And I think from episode 1 to episode 12, I think it's who's going to win, who's next. I think every episode, it does have a different villain every episode, but each villain is involved in winning the race and winning the ultimate prize. And what is Speed Racer racing for? Everyone's racing for a different thing. Yes, there's probably a monetary prize of some kind, but maybe there is a life at stake or something with Speed Racer. Maybe someone at the beginning gets kidnapped and Speed has to race against time to save them. And every episode he's getting thwarted and getting stopped and getting pushed farther away from his goal, and it would just be so compelling. You'd have to watch the next episode to see what was Speed gonna do. I think what I would do is maybe take some of the best moments of the Speed Racer cartoon show and combine them. There was one great episode I absolutely loved years ago with Racer X, where Speed and Racer X are involved in this race, and there's a huge crash. They both get knocked unconscious. Speed wakes up, and he looks at the sun, and his eyes get damaged. The minute he wakes up, he's like, so he can't, his eyes are damaged and he can't see. But Racer X can't move. Like, he can see, but he can't move. So what they do is Speed and Racer X get into a car. Speed can't see, but he can drive. And Racer X can see, but he can't move. So Racer X has to be his eyes, and Speed has to be his hands. That's a very cool element to put in this story. And I almost think it should be a story where Speed has to rescue either his parents or his girlfriend, or maybe his entire family has been taken.
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
So Speed won't race. But Speed does race because he has to race in order to get his family free. I think it'd be really cool to do like a 12-episode, awesome, overarching race that has to be completed. Every leg of the race has to be completed by the end of the episode. It's almost like the Tour de France. Like the Tour de France is like a multi-day bike race over the landscape of France, where it's just multiple days. You're wondering who's gonna win. There's drama. There's dramatic injuries, there's dramatic triumphs, there's all this stuff that goes on in races like that. I think Speed Racer totally lends itself to a very, very awesome, exciting story. I think it'd be really, really cool. And during this race, you get to know all the characters. I think at the very beginning, somehow Speed's car gets disabled. He's got the car, but something goes wrong. It's like in perfect working condition at the beginning, and some bad guy sabotages it, so it malfunctions through the entire race, like all 12 episodes. It's almost like when you watch a Marvel movie and Tony Stark's got his armor, but then it keeps getting more damaged and more damaged as the movie goes on. Finally, his armor, it's always like armor power at 10%.
That's comprehensive.
He's always at losing power and stuff. So I think we need to really make it difficult for the hero. And I think Speed goes from being, maybe it's almost like a very cocky dude at the beginning because he's won so many races, to becoming a guy who gets knocked down to rock bottom and then has to work his way back up to the top. And I think through that 12 episode arc, he'd really learn how to do that. He would discover if Racer X is or isn't his brother, not giving that away. Spritle and Jim Jim would have their moments of heroism. I think Pops Racer would do something cool, maybe reinvent something that Speed could use along the way. I think Speed's girlfriend Trixie has her amazing moments where she helps as well. Speed in the show has a friend. I think his name is Sparky. He's like Speed's mechanic. No, he's not Sparky from the Fairly Odd Parents. Hey, dude, that's the Sense of Magic dog. No, I think Sparky in Speed Racer is Speed's friend. Or is he? But is Sparky, I mean, we don't know who's on Speed's side. We don't know who's working for him, who's working against him. So that'd be pretty cool. Maybe the Mach 5, maybe it's got a stealth mode. I think, ooh, that's cool. We add a stealth mode into the Mach 5 and somehow that helps him win the race in some way. It's the ultimate race where anything goes, no rules. That's number one. So that would really up the stakes a lot, I think. Well, what'd you guys think of that? Would you like to see a reboot of Speed Racer? Should I continue on this path and maybe continue expanding on my ideas for Speed Racer? You want to see some more drawings from this idea? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I love anime. I've got a very cool anime show I'm working on my very own called Elf Detective, and there's more updates about that coming very, very soon. Okay? All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. Give us a like. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. And as always, art gives you power. Use it wisely.